Happy Monday! I know Saturday was super cold, but hopefully you got a chance to get outside and enjoy some sunshine and a little warmer temps yesterday. We have a 5-day week and we are going to be battling through literally, you'll find that out in just a second. But we will be going through Act 4 of Julius Caesar this week. Scenes 1 and 2 are super short, so you're gonna be reading that today. They're just 2 or 3 pages. And then you'll be spending Tuesday and Wednesday going through scene 3, which is quite a bit longer. And then I will post an assignment on Thursday. You can work on it Thursday or Friday. It'll be due by Friday. So we're gonna get through Act 4, read through about Wednesday. I'll post the assignment on Thursday and you have until Friday to get that done. And that's kind of our week. But I wanted to recap a little bit from last week with the funeral speeches and tell you what's happening in scenes 1 and 2 of Act 4 that you're going to read today. So last week we went through the funeral speeches that were given by Brutus and Antony. So I'm going to recap just a few highlighted points for that. So Brutus speaks first, which he wanted, which is a huge mistake. He makes a couple big, really big mistakes. First, he speaks first, and then after he speaks, he leaves. So we focused on the persuasive techniques that he uses in his funeral speech last week. There was ethos, pathos, and logos, and he uses all of those, but the biggest one that he uses is logos, logical. So he was trying to give all these, or basically one rational reason for why they killed Caesar, and he kept saying Caesar was too ambitious and that they loved Rome more than they loved Caesar. They would have been all slaves. So he was really playing into the logos, that appeal of logic and reasoning and trying to persuade the crowd, which he does, of why they killed Caesar, and the crowd's on his side. But his speech is short, and as soon as he's done, he leaves. Well, then we all know Antony gets on his stage, literally his stage. I mean, he speaks and he completely changes the crowd. He uses all of the persuasive techniques, logos and pathos and ethos. I would say probably pathos, his emotional appeal, is what he's using the most. He really went into some in-depth with the emotional appeal. But I do want to say that he kind of uses like reverse psychology and some sarcasm, because he never goes against Brutus. He never said Brutus was a terrible person. He uses sarcasm and he says, oh, whoa. Brutus said Caesar was ambitious and Brutus is an honorable man. And he repeats that over and over. So repetition plays into his funeral speech as well. But I mean, the emotional appeal he uses, he gathers the crowd around Caesar's body. He rips that cloak off. There's blood, Caesar's dead body right there in front of all these people. And he starts pointing out the stab wound. Cassius did this. This person did this. This person did this. And then he focuses on Brutus. This was the most unkindest cut of all. Again, he never says that Brutus is a terrible person. He just said that one hurt Caesar the most. He talks about his will. Now, the will is one that I'm like, I don't know. Did he have time to go get Caesar's will? Is he making this up? We see a big character change in Antony. He had been kind of in the shadow of Caesar until his death. And as soon as Caesar dies, he becomes like a light in the play. I mean, he is raging. And you're going to find out in a few minutes once you read scene 1. He doesn't seem like a really great guy, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But no matter what, he fills that funeral speech with all these different persuasive techniques, tons of emotional appeal, ethos and logos as well, talking about how but a lot of sarcasm, his credit, giving himself credit as well, and just his loyalty to Caesar, as well as playing into the logical reasoning behind kind of his thoughts and his actions as well, and kind of disputing in just sarcastic kind of reverse psychology way everything that Brutus has said. By the end of his speech, the crowd is going crazy. Like, they are like, hail Antony, just like absolutely bowing down, like, you tell us what to do, we're gonna go do it. I asked you the question last week, who had the better speech? It's pretty much a no-brainer. Yes, Brutus does a good job when he's up there, but Antony completely, and part of it is because he goes second, and Brutus makes that big mistake. He lets him go second, and he leaves. Antony just completely takes control. And if Brutus would have stuck around, things would have been different. He could have stopped the speech. He could have said some things. He could have battled back. He would have at least known what Antony had said instead of getting word for it, which is what you'll kind of figure out. So you read at the very end of Act 3, Scene 3, which was last week, they kill this guy named Cinna the poet. All the people, after Antony's speech, the crowd's like going crazy. They rush the streets. They're finding anyone associated with the conspirators. They've come across this guy like, what's your name? And he's like, my name's Cinna. I'm Cinna the poet. And they're like, kill him. Because Cinna was part of the conspiracy group, not Cinna the poet. They'd kill an innocent man. They don't care. They're not thinking. They're reckless. They're irrational. It reminds me back to Fahrenheit 451. I know you're all thinking the same thing. It reminds me back to Fahrenheit 451 when they killed the innocent man when they were trying to find Montag and they couldn't let society see them fail. They just kill Cinna the poet. He had nothing to do with anything. They're just outraged. Am I talking about there? It's the people, like everyone that was listening to Antony, they're all on his side now. They want to take down the conspirators. They want revenge. Antony completely won them over. Okay, so that's kind of a recap from last week. Today you're going to read Act 4, Scenes 1 and 2. Again, super short. What the textbook and the No Fear Shakespeare doesn't tell you and what you're going to read is that it's been 2 years. 2 years. So for 2 years, Brutus and Cassius got word, obviously, that people were after him. So they're building an army. Antony is building an army to take down Cassius and Brutus. Now, he's working with 2 other people. So there's 3 people working together. It's called a triumvirate. This is another new triumvirate. We've talked about this. When there's 3 people in charge, they're all fighting for power. Brutus and Cassius fought for power. Brutus ends up winning. What's going to happen here is Antony and Octavius, there's another guy by the name of Lepidus, which is what Scene 1's a little bit about, and we'll talk about. But when Antony and Lepidus kind of are talking with each other, they're going to remind you of Brutus and Cassius. Antony is going to be your Brutus, like blinded by revenge, and he is just like out for blood. He's not really thinking rationally about everything going on. And Octavius, which is Caesar's adopted son, the heir to the throne, he's in this triumvirate with Antony and Lepidus, and he's going to kind of take the role of Cassius, where he's smart and he's level-headed, but Antony's not really listening to him. So, Scene 1, 2 years later, they're talking. It's Antony and Lepidus and Octavius, and they're talking about who needs to do what, who should be on their side, who do they need to kill. And Antony is like, you got to kill your family. Like, if they're involved, you got to kill your family. So you start to kind of see this different side of him, like he is just so blinded for revenge. The other thing, as soon as Lepidus leaves, they talk about him. And when I say they, it's mainly Antony. Talks terrible about him. Oh, we're just using him. He's just doing our dirty work. He's basically just as good as like a horse that I have. Like, he really doesn't mean anything to us. Like, we don't need him. Like, this is like maybe not your best friend, but like if you're on a team or something or in a group, an organization, and the captain or the coach or something was just like talking like, oh yeah, like we don't really need him. Like, they're replaceable or something. Like, not a good thing. You're in power with this person. You need them, but he doesn't value Lepidus at all. And Octavius is just like, okay, kind of that middleman in between it. So that's Scene 1. Super short, but you get this character, like tons of characterization of Antony, which you really haven't seen until Caesar died. So really pay attention to his character, because that's what we'd be talking about if we were in class. Okay, Scene 2, super short again. This time it switches to Brutus and Cassius. They're emotional. For the last 2 years, they've been raising this army, building this army, knowing that people are coming after them, have no clue what the outcome of their situation is going to be. So they're emotional, they're stressed, and they start kind of arguing with each other. Like, you've done me wrong, brother. No, you've done me wrong. And they start to argue, and they realize that they're like in front of all of their soldiers and they can hear them. And they're like, we need to go into the tent. So that's where Scene 3 is going to pick up. But I'm going to ask you 2 questions. 1, why would they not want to argue in front of their soldiers? Well, we know this. This would be like if I had a co-teacher. So if you're listening from 3rd or 6th hour, this would be like if Miss Hendricks and I all of a sudden got in an argument in front of class, in front of all of you guys. And like, that would be weird and awkward. Like, your 2 teachers don't get along. So especially in this time, this is the battle. Like, these are your leaders. Like, you need these guys, and they're going to start arguing about who did each other wrong. Like, not a good sign, which they know. I'll give them credit. At least they recognize that, and they're getting ready to go into the tent and have their little argument and hopefully get it resolved. They're just emotional. They're stressed. We can't blame them too much on that. So that's what Scene 3, which is what you'll read Tuesday and Wednesday will all be about. And I'll post a recap video on Wednesday about that scene because it's long and I get it. Other than that, oh, I thought I had another question, but I don't remember, and I don't really see it in my notes. So that's pretty much it. I know the scenes are short, so, and if you watch the video, you don't have to read too much or at all, I guess, in a sense, because I usually try to tell you as much as you need to know, but it's still good to read. So you have today to do scenes 1 and 2, and the next 2 days to do scene 3, and I'll post another video on Wednesday. All right, get outside today. It's supposed to be nice. And I'll talk to you guys later on. All right, bye.